Hello, guys. It's the web novel guy here with a list of 10 fantasy web novels and light novels. This list isn't ranked, the numbers are just random. So, let's begin.
"I'll catch up later, so go on ahead," I said, and stayed behind in the dungeon for 5 years. When I returned to the royal capital, for some reason, I had become a great criminal. So I decided to retire. But outstanding people keep gathering around me, though. This is the story of Haruto, once hailed as the strongest hero. After sacrificing himself so his comrades could escape the Abyss Sanctum, he was thought to be dead. But 5 years later, Haruto returns, only to find himself branded a traitor instead of welcomed as a hero. With no place left for him in the world he once saved, Haruto settles down in a quiet town and begins working as a baker. Yet his peaceful days don't last long. One by one, his former comrades, now powerful and beautiful women, start appearing at his shop. Though he only wishes for a simple life, Haruto is still the strongest man alive. The world won't let him fade into obscurity, and soon his name rises again in unexpected ways. A tale of lost bonds, hidden truths, and a hero's second life begins here.
2. All my female disciples are ungrateful snakes. I'm not taking them back in this life. Chen Yang once took in 6 ordinary girls as disciples. Through his guidance, he turned them into peerless prodigies, each of them eventually rising to the throne of an emperor, shaking the entire world. But instead of gratitude, betrayal was what awaited him. The 6 disciples he raised with everything he had turned on him, stabbing him in the back and leading him to his death. Before falling, Chen Yang dragged all 6 traitors down with him, yet his own life ended as well. When he opened his eyes, he had returned 3,000 years to the past. This time, when those same 6 disciples knelt before him begging to be taken in again, Chen Yang coldly rejected them. Never again. Reborn with all his knowledge, Chen Yang vowed not to repeat the same mistake. Meanwhile, his former disciples, also reborn, thought they could reach the peak without him, only to realize that without their master, their so-called talent was worthless. Now, no matter how much they regret, Chen Yang is determined to walk his own path, leaving behind the ungrateful ones who betrayed him. A story of betrayal, rebirth, and ruthless revenge begins here. 3. The magician with clumsy magic wields gravity spells like no other. In a world where there is no concept of gravity yet, a boy rises as the king of universal gravitation. Wade was born in the slums, abandoned by terrible parents, and left with nothing but hardship. His only escape came when he became an apprentice adventurer, enduring brutal training with the promise of one day learning magic. But when that day finally arrived, while others gained powerful fire and water spells, Wade was given what seemed like the worst ability possible: slow magic. Everyone laughed at him, calling it useless. Yet, Wade remembered something no one else in this world could: his past life knowledge. To him, slow magic wasn't weak at all. It was gravity magic. With it, Wade could increase his weight to strike harder, lighten himself to move faster, float like air, and even bend the battlefield by controlling gravity itself. Mocked by others, he turned his so-called trash power into a weapon that crushed goblins, toppled boss monsters, and left his enemies in awe. Now, together with unlikely allies, a fellow outcast magician, and a boy chasing the dream of becoming a hero, Wade dives deeper into dangerous dungeons, seeking stronger foes and proving that even the most underestimated power can change everything. 4.
A Neat's Guide to the Parallel World. Healer, the strongest cheat? Right after jumping off the roof, Masamune was caught up in his class transition to a new world, a throne hall. The students had all received high-class jobs such as sage or hero, except for Masamune, who became a healer, the weakest known occupation. Cursed at and called incompetent, he alone is banished. After wandering in the darkness, Masamune, who received the skill Mischief Inversion Extreme, by inverting the healing magic, gained the ominous magic Encroachment Wave. Now the strongest, Masamune swore his revenge. Demons and the White Cat Tribe, precious companions he met on his journey. Together, they explore the new world. 5. The banished former hero lives as he pleases. Meet Alan, a young man once branded as a good-for-nothing because of his low level and lack of a God-given gift. Cast out from the Duchy of Westfeld and stripped of his noble title, everyone thought his life was over. But here's the twist. Alan isn't ordinary at all. In his past life, he was a legendary hero, and this banishment is actually his chance to live free for once. Of course, things don't stay peaceful for long. When he crosses paths with his ex-fiancée in danger, Alan can't ignore her cries for help. Using the incredible powers he carried over from his past life, he's pulled into a brand new adventure. One filled with demons, conspiracies, and battles that will shake the kingdom. This is the story of a former hero who never wanted to rise again, but destiny refuses to let him rest.
6. Mother of Learning. Zorian is a teenage mage of humble birth and slightly above average skill, attending his 3rd year of education at Sayoria's Magical Academy. He is a driven and irritable young man, consumed by a desire to ensure his own future and free himself of the influence of his family, whom he resents for favoring his brothers over him. Consequently, he has no time for pointless distractions or paying attention to other people's problems. As it happens, time is something he's about to get plenty of. On the eve of the Sayoria's annual summer festival, he is killed and brought back to the beginning of the month, just before he was about to take a train to Sayoria. Suddenly trapped in a time loop with no clear end or exit, Zorian will have to look both within and without to unravel the mystery before him. And he does have to unravel it, for the time loop hadn't been made for his sake, and dangers lurk everywhere.
7. Reincarnator. A bored god created the Abyss, a hellish dimension where humanity was forced to fight against monsters and other races. But humanity failed. On the edge of extinction, with only 4 survivors left, one final chance remained: sending someone back in time. And of course, the choice was obvious. The strongest among them, Kang Hang-soo. Armed with the memories of humanity's downfall, Kang Han-soo is thrown back to the moment before the Abyss began. This time, he knows every enemy, every betrayal, and every challenge that awaits him. His mission? To rewrite fate and stop humanity's annihilation. This is the legend of Reincarnator, the story of a man who returned from the end of the world to save it.
8. My instant death ability is so overpowered, no one in this other world stands a chance against me. Growth cheats, infinite magic power, the ability to utilize all archetypes? What's the point if instant death ends everything with a single attack? High school senior Yugiri Takatao was on a school field trip when he woke up to a dragon assaulting his sightseeing bus, with the only one still on the bus being him and his female classmate, the panicking Tomochika Danora. Apparently, the rest of his classmates had been given special powers by Scion, a woman who introduced herself as Sage and escaped from the dragon, leaving those that hadn't received any special powers behind as dragon bait. And so Yogiri was thrown into a parallel universe full of danger, with no idea of what just happened. Likewise, Scion had no way of knowing just what kind of being she had summoned to her world.
9. The jack-of-all-trades kicked out of the hero's party. The swordsman who became a support mage due to party circumstances becomes all-powerful. Meet Orn Dula, once a member of the hero party, but tossed aside and branded as useless. Originally a swordsman, he switched to being an enchanter just to fill the role his team needed. But one day, the party leader tells him straight, "Your skills are lacking, leave the party." Mocked as a jack-of-all-trades, master of none, Orn was never the strongest in combat or the most gifted in magic. What set him apart was his ability to learn quickly, absorbing countless skills and knowledge that others struggled to master. Now cast out, Orn decides to start fresh, returning to his roots as a swordsman. But this time, he carries the hidden strength of everything he learned as an enchanter, his experience, his original spells, and his unyielding will. This is the story of how an underestimated adventurer rises again, turning rejection into the foundation of an unconventional powerhouse swordsman. 10. Civil servant in romance fantasy. He only read a few free chapters of a romance fantasy novel, and the next thing he knew, he was reincarnated inside it. The man he became was no ordinary background character. He was born into a prestigious family blessed by the royal bloodline. But with that came a price, a father blindly loyal to the emperor, and a forced path into government service. At just 17, he chose duty over freedom, becoming a civil servant instead of attending the academy. 4 years later, he regrets everything. But before he can quit, the emperor personally gives him a mission: enroll in the academy, not as a student chasing romance, but as the chief inspector, tasked with protecting foreign princes and keeping the peace. Now, surrounded by the original heroine of the novel and her growing harem of love interests, he must juggle survival, politics, and unexpected romance of his own. What begins as a dull bureaucrat's life slowly turns into a dangerous yet captivating story of secrets, relationships, and the rise of a man who was never meant to be the protagonist.
And that's all for today's list. I hope you found a web novel or light novel to your liking. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.